Well, I want to welcome everybody to tonight's call. This is the first of a monthly call. We'll be doing this call once a month. It's our scan operator best practices call. And this is a call where we'll go over some trainings. We'll have some guest speakers on here. We'll learn from one another. And we'd also like to encourage roundtable discussions as well. So people that are having success or having challenges, this is here to help troubleshoot some things. And a lot of times there's just some minor things that need to be adjusted that can remove a barrier to people having success in the business. I was just on a call today with a office manager, and they've been busy. They've got other things going on in the office, but her current biggest pain point right now was she didn't know how to put in orders efficiently. So we went into her My Site. We recorded a quick couple-minute video of how to place the orders in My Site, how it automatically sets up member accounts. And now she's going to feel a lot more comfortable, putting in the orders, because that was her rate limiting step. She's using the products. She believes in the products. Her and her doctor were out at our corporate headquarters, and they're comfortable calling their patients and doing consults with them. But they said, hey, it's taking way too long to put in the orders. And we just gave her a workflow. And now she's putting in, she should be able to put in those orders pretty easily. So we'll review that workflow for you guys here tonight on how to put in orders through My Site. And really what we would encourage you to do for our next month's call is to really invite your scan operator providers onto this call so they can connect. And we can help them and encourage them and teach them, how to have more success and lift some of the burden off of you. But it's all about the art of recruiting and promotion, onto this and reaching out to your key scan operators. And as we continue to implement and get used to using Blue Sun systems, it's going to allow everybody to get more organized, let everybody be more efficient with their promotion. So, right now, it looks like we've got mostly distributors that are using the scanner either in the field or in other situations. We've got Heather on here, Dr. Starling, who we're glad that she was able to join us here. And she's going to be sharing some of the things that she's learned in the practice and what her goals are. But before we have Heather start, are there any specific things that you guys would like to talk about here on this evening's call?
Stephen, one of the things that I don't know if this is appropriate for this call or not. We're working with a huge practice in Virginia, and one of the issues which arose from the office manager was the time it would take to do the scan and have the doctor speak to the patient, do the order. So she thought it would be disruptive to the workflow. So she kept advocating for like a kiosk so that they could do it that way. And so we've stalemated there for a month. And I just wanted to bring that up to see if there's, if we're going to talk about workflow, then, maybe it might give me some ideas.
Yeah, well, we can have Heather probably talk about that as well, because she's doing quite a bit of scanning. And the speakers that we're going to have on these calls are, we want to share the bright spots and people that are having success, because, we can come up with all the challenges and suggestions, but it's really the doctors and the people working with the doctors that are solving those issues and coming from experience. And, sometimes the issues that people think they may or may not have are actually not real issues. They're a false, perception. So we do have a new scanner that's going to be coming out sometime next year with an entirely new software platform that's designed to remove some of the friction, make things more efficient, allow people to essentially scan themselves. But I don't know any other device that patients walk up and it operates as a kiosk in a doctor's office. I know if I go to my grocery store, people, they've got that blood pressure cuff that people use occasionally, but there's no recommendation. It's not connected to anything. I don't think it really drives blood pressure sales, prescriptions, or anything like that. It's just kind of there, almost as a gimmicky thing in a way nowadays. But but everything that doctors use in their practice is facilitated by somebody, even if it's a lower level employee. Blood pressure, there's ways to do blood pressure automated, but they don't. And they may not be listening with the stethoscope. They may be putting, like, my dentist puts a cuff on me and presses a button, or the assistant does, but she's sitting next to me the whole time and saying, oh, your blood pressure is a little high, you're probably just nervous from being at the dentist or whatever. Right? It's not like I walk in and I go into the waiting room and step into a kiosk. So I think that when people utilize this, there are some really efficient ways to do it. But like anything new, it's very easy to have some false assumptions with things. So that would probably be a good thing for Heather, because she's got a busy practice. And Heather, I think you have somewhere around 100 or so patients that are enrolled on subscription, roughly.
Yes, I have at least 100 and increasing every day. And I totally understand a busy practice, and you have your normal workflow, and especially your staff. It's not so much the physician typically. If the physician is on board, great, but you got to get your staff on board as well, because staff does things the way they've always done things for however many years they've been with you, which is wonderful. They're very consistent. However, you do have to get them on board as far as this goes.
And Heather, let me give you a proper introduction here. We kind of
Yeah,
just
sure.
jumped right in there. So Heather Starling is an optometrist up in the Clearwater area.
Gainesville, Florida.
Gainesville
No haters.
area. And Heather is a long-term friend of Dr. Greg Caldwell. We finally got a chance to meet in person with her and her husband just a couple weeks ago at the A4M conference. And I just really enjoyed talking with Heather. It's always good being around people that are positive. Like, whatever we focus on expands. If we say it's not going to work, we're right. If we say it's going to work, we're right. Right. It's all what we focus on, and that's where our intentions and our why and our desire are so important. Nobody needs one more thing to do unless that one more thing to do is important, right? Or is a priority, or there's value that's there. So Heather, maybe you can tell a little bit about your background, your practice, and then share with how you've been implementing it.
Sure. So I'm in private practice. I have a private practice in Gainesville, Florida. I'm a single practitioner. I do it all. I run the practice. I do HR. I see all the patients. I'm sort of a control freak, I guess you would say. And I love every minute of it. I've been practicing for 28 years, 25 of those in Gainesville. Dr. Moore mentioned Dr. Greg Caldwell. Him and I were classmates at PCO. We graduated in 95, and we were partners and did a residency and finished in 1996 up in Philadelphia. We both kind of gone our own ways and have sort of come back together in this regard, which is pretty cool. My practice is again in Gainesville, Florida. I have a very much primary care practice. I was just telling my husband, today was a crazy day. I had glaucoma. I had retinal pigmentary epithelial detachment. I had a retinal detachment. I had diabetic retinopathy. I had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But I still found the time to discuss their antioxidant scores, their carotenoid scores from their scan results. And, I really think that makes a huge difference in patients' lives. I've been seeing it just in my own practice. We started scanning in January, and as Dr. Moore mentioned, I have over 100 patients that are enrolled in a subscription basis, more every day. I had a patient today who has macular degeneration, and so I started her on eye formula, Life Pack, and she's been taking like an over-the-counter supplement. And I scanned her today, and her numbers were still low. And that's a real thing with a lot of patients that I don't think most of us realize, that people are spending lots of dollars, lots of energy, lots of money on supplements at CVS, for example, and they think they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And they are. However, they're not the same quality as what we can recommend for them. And that's huge, so from in my perspective, I'm an eye doctor. So macular degeneration is probably the most well-studied disease that we deal with as far as supplementation is concerned. And I see all these patients that the retinal specialists have been telling them to take PreserVision for years. You get it at CVS, you get it at Publix, wherever. And I've not seen one patient that's been taking that religiously that has a good score. And by a good score, we mean 50,000 or higher on that scanner. I had the patient today that I saw, she's been taking PreserVision for 10 years and she was at 30,000. And she was, desperate, almost in tears, talking to me about how she's so afraid of losing her vision. Her husband is disabled and she wants to do everything she can. So I really feel that we can make a major difference in patients' lives. Again, I'm from the eye care perspective, but if you're primary care or whatever your specialty is, there are certainly issues that you can make a difference with. What I have chosen to do is I don't charge patients for a scan. I scan everybody. I have a nutrition conversation with every single patient. I talk about their vision. I talk about their health. I talk about their medications. I talk about their carotenoid score. And some people are going to be so interested and so engaged and want to have a total dialogue with you, which is wonderful. Take the few extra seconds that it takes to do that. And, I really feel that it has made me become a better physician. I'm listening more to people about what's going on with their overall health. And I think that's important. I think we need that in our healthcare. We take the extra time to discuss it. I talk about it with every patient. I know we were discussing earlier about a kiosk thing. That would never work in my practice. I'm not a fan of that. I think the doctor needs to be the decision maker, be the person that is guiding the ship, if you will, and given the recommendation. It doesn't have to be a prescription per se, but we recommend things all the time. And I think supplements and health, protecting your cells, whatever your specialty is, I think that's huge. And I think we need to be advocates for our patients in that regard. And I don't make any apologies for that.
So Heather, we're getting some questions in here because it's your energy, your dedication to this, your just your commitment. You can hear it in your voice, right? This is something that is important to you, and because it's important to you, it's important to your patient. So people are asking is what do you attribute your success to? And I wrote down a few things here, and maybe you can expand on some of the things that I wrote down and add to it. But I write down is number one, it's your belief. Number two, you've got passion for it. And number three, you're committed to helping your patients address this.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And as a personal note, and I think you have to find your personal why. How does this matter for you? Is it just that you want to help people, which is, great? Do you have a personal connection to it? And I think it's okay to be vulnerable to patients and explain that to them. I will tell you guys, 2 years ago today, I rang the bell. I finished radiation from breast cancer treatment. And, that's a big reality check. And if anybody has been through that, you start thinking, oh my gosh, there are these things that I have no control over. I mean, sadly, most of us that are practitioners, we control everything. I mean, guilty as charged, right? We like to control things. And the older I've gotten and the more, things that happen, like I said, breast cancer, huge deal for me. I had no control over that. But I do have control over making myself the healthiest I can possibly be, having a great antioxidant score, doing everything I can, eating healthy, exercising, taking some supplements. And that's the path I've chosen. And, and I share it with my patients. I've been very open about all of that with my patients. And I think you have to make it real and personal. And, just be who you are, and have people will understand that, and understand where you're coming from. And I think that's so much more than, I want to sell some vitamins. That means nothing. You have to come from a place of being genuine, and whatever your story is and whatever your concerns are and wherever you are, you have to bring that to your practice and with your patients. And I think the success just comes from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so much wisdom and truth in there. And again, congratulations on being clear from breast cancer. That's fantastic. And
Thank you.
yeah, that's great. So, I kind of was thinking as you were talking as well, is, my kids are in martial arts. They've been doing it for a few years. And I remember we had gone to a school and they were offering a free class or a free week. And I looked at the person that was running the class. It was a Filipino stick fighting martial arts class. And, nothing against the guy, but the guy wasn't Filipino, right? The guy was overweight. That you could tell maybe he was interested in it, but there's just something there that I was like, not sure if this is where I want to commit to. You could go ahead and buy online classes. You can watch things on YouTube for free, right? The kiosk version of martial arts. But
Right.
we had a friend, that we trust that says, we went to one school, then we had a friend that says, you need to go check out the school that my kids go to. This is what I like about it. It's not just about the martial arts and the passion. They're great people. And there's a whole personal development program and character development built into it. And our kids are thriving in that. And we went over there and we met with them and they met with us. And I'm like, this is where we want our kids to be. Right.
Sure. And I think that makes perfect sense. It's the people are genuine, and and that comes across. I have someone that's under me, and her big concern was, I don't want to be a salesman. Great. No, I don't either, and I don't sell anything in the exam room. I don't talk about price. That is not my wheelhouse at all. I approach everything as, how can I make your health better? Whether it's your eyes, your overall health. And as most of your eyes are connected to everything else, obviously. So if it's good for your eyes, it's good for everything else, and vice versa. And that's my concern. And I don't sell. I recommend. And I think that's huge. And I think that's the exam room, in my opinion, has always been a sacred place. And I think it always needs to be that. Now, can we be profitable in the process of it? Yeah, of course. We're all in business. But I think you always have the best interest of the patient at heart. And I think that comes across. I think being genuine, it matters.
Yeah. Great. And how many patients do you see a day about, Heather?
I see between 20 and 25 patients a day, typically.
Yeah. So you're seeing quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because with optometrists, you have a lot of things to cover, a lot of
I had a crazy
testing
day
devices
today.
that you're doing, and you still
Yeah.
find time to do it. And so some questions that are coming in here is, how much time do you typically spend with each patient? Now, Lawrence, I don't know if that question is how much total time, or how much time do you spend talking to them about the supplements or about their nutrition? Heather, you probably answer both of those questions.
Basically,
And then
25 patients a day, and that's a lot. That's pretty good number of patients, and they've come in to get their eyes tested,
Yes.
or checked or whatever. So I'm just trying to figure out time, more or less, per patient, and what are the products that you most recommend generally. I understand they've got different afflictions.
Yeah, sure, of course. Like I said, I scan everybody. I have a staff that, goes through all the pre-testing. Everyone's been to the eye doctor. You go through all the machines and everything. My staff checks your vision, goes through your medications, et cetera. I come in the room, And, I discussed, I again review, because again, being the control freak that I am, I review their medical history very quickly, their medications, their allergies, etc. And then I also will say your visual field was great. And I discussed their vision problems. Of course, I want to make sure if there's any concerns they have for their visit, that I'm going to be able to address those. And then before I even start doing a refraction or examining the patient, I have their carotenoid score in front of me. And I always tell them, I said, I do have your carotenoid score, and I wanted to discuss that with you. Have you ever had that checked before? And everybody's like, no, that was so cool. What is that? And I take a few minutes and I tell them, I said, well, you've heard of antioxidants, how important they are for your overall health and well-being. And everybody nods. Yes, we've heard the word, and I tell them, from the eye care perspective, the reason we're checking here is because we have found that antioxidants protect you against things like macular degeneration, like glaucoma, like diabetic retinopathy, all of those things that you and I never want to have a conversation about in the future, right? So the number we're looking for to keep you the most healthy on that score is 50,000 or higher. And I tell them, because most people are at 10,000 or 12,000 or whatever their number is, I tell them, most people are not at that point. Most people are much lower than that 50,000 target that we're looking for. And your number today was 12,000, whatever it was. And if they look horrified, I'm like, you're not an outlier. Most people are lower than what we want you to be at, which is why I'm going to recommend a supplement for you to get that number closer to where you're going to be the most protected and the most healthy for your eyes and overall health. And I usually will start by recommending Life Pack. That's my go. That's pretty much what I recommend for everybody, as far as being a multivitamin, multi-mineral supplement. Now, if they have other issues going on, that's going to change. If they have macular degeneration, we add eye formula. If they have dry eye, marine omega with the omega-3s is what I recommend, or a lot of chronic allergy. But I would say my bread and butter of what I recommend all day long is going to be Life Pack. It's a fantastic supplement. I can tell you, we have been scanning in the office and recommending it to patients since the 1st of January of this year. And I will tell you that every person I have brought back to rescan, and we've been doing it since, March, we brought them back after about 60 days. And every person's numbers have gone up. I've gotten fantastic feedback. A lot of people are telling me that they can't really put their finger on what they feel better about, but they just feel better, sleeping better. I had one patient who her IBS symptoms are better. I have a runner who feels like she has more endurance. Immune system seems to be better, all of those things. So everything's been positive. I've not had one negative side effect from people being put on Life Pack or any of the other supplements. But the three I typically use most commonly, being in eye care, is Life Pack, eye formula, and marine omega.
Great. And so one of the questions we have here is, at what point do you recommend the eye formula? Do you recommend if they have drusen?
So it really, so the AREDS 2 study is very clear. About 90% of the patients in that study were already on a very high quality multivitamin. Now, whatever that was, we don't know. I put them on Life Pack. That's my high quality multivitamin. Once they get to the intermediate level of macular degeneration, where they have diffuse drusen in the macula, as well as changes in the RPE layer, that's considered an intermediate layer. And then we add the eye formula. That's your AREDS 2 formula. So from my perspective, family history, I put them on Life Pack. I don't go to the AREDS 2 formula. That's not really shown to be the most effective preventative. So Life Pack is where we go there. Once they do have macular degeneration and they get to the intermediate level, then Life Pack the AREDS2, which is eye formula. And you can even add marine omega as well, the omega-3s. Those would be most people are, a lot of my patients are sort of hesitant to jump in and do 3. So I'll do Life Pack and eye formula and maybe add eye formula a month or 2 later, or I'm sorry, the marine omega a few months later. But you want to put those folks on, you want to give them your big guns, in my opinion. By being on supplements, the AREDS2 study shows that we can decrease their chance from progressing from intermediate, where they don't have vision loss, to advanced, where almost everybody does, macular degeneration, by about 25% by putting them on supplements. Well worth it, in my opinion.
And I think some doctors get discouraged sometimes when someone says no or doesn't take their advice or their recommendation. I forget what the statistics are, but I think it's 50% or more of prescriptions that get written by doctors never even get filled. But doctors don't get that rejection, so they just write the script. The patient goes out the door.
You just keep writing, and you have no idea, right?
So I if we can help, my feeling on this, if we can help one person a day start on the nutritional therapy, improve their health, and 9 or 20 people a day say no, it's the one person a day we want to focus on that we help. And hey, we can't help people that don't want to be helped, but just from an expectation management standpoint, every office is a little different. You're super passionate about what you're doing, but I would probably bet that not every patient takes your advice still.
They don't. And, it's sort of humbling, I mean, I have all this knowledge, all this work, no, of course. And, not everybody changes their glasses when I tell them they should as well, and that's okay. I'm going to see them back in, many of them, 6 months or a year, depending on what we're watching. And, we'll revisit again. Some people need to hear things more than one time, in my opinion. And that's okay. Let them ask their questions. And, everyone that we scan is going to get an email with like a link to the video about the scanning technology. And if you haven't seen that's a pretty cool video. If you haven't watched it, make sure you do, because, it goes into the whole biophotonic scanner, and a lot of people think that's pretty amazing. I've had a lot of good feedback about that. And sometimes just people need to be exposed to things more than once. And nutrition is it's not as fringy as what it used to be. I will say that. But a lot of people still are a little skeptical about that. And that's okay. And I actually address that a lot of times in the exam room. And I tell people, look, this is a pharmaceutical grade supplement. It's manufactured at the highest levels, and we know that it gets absorbed into your cells. And the big problem that we know with a lot of supplements is that you take all these things that you buy at CVS and they do nothing for you. And we have no way to track them, no way to measure. And the difference with Life Pack, for example, if that's what I'm recommending, is that I can track it for you and make sure that it's doing what I want it to do for you, meaning that I want your numbers to go up. So if you're at 30,000 today and you start taking Life Pack, I'm going to bring you back in a couple months, and I'm just going to rescan you. And I go in and I talk to every single person that comes back for a rescan, and I discuss it with them and ask them how they're feeling and what their thoughts are. And, and I think, and we don't charge people for that. I mean, obviously they can come in every couple of months. Every single person that we have brought back in, their numbers have gone up, and people are so excited about that. It's a really, it's a total add-on to your practice, whatever your specialty is.
So what percentage of your patients would you say do take your advice when you recommend?
Oh gosh. I would say, so out of the 20 to 25 I do a day, like I did two supplement orders today, and I saw 24 patients. So that's about an average day. So I would say that's about our average. If we do about 2 a day, with all of those patients, that's a good day. Now, some days I do 3 or 4, some days we do none, and I will tell you, surprisingly, some people go home and think about it and call back a day or 2 later, and they're like, yeah, I want to try that.
So how do you feel when you scan and talk to 20 patients and only two take your advice? Because
Yeah.
again, we don't like we reject
No,
it. Do we get discouraged? Like
yeah,
how do you handle that?
I don't get discouraged. My thought and getting into, healthcare in general, just whatever type of specialty you're in. I mean, you got into it because you want to help people and you want to, give them your knowledge and give the best of you. And you can't take home the fact that people aren't necessarily going to do it. Now if it's an emergency, well, they have no choice, they're taking my advice. If you're having a retinal detachment, guess what, you're out the door and going to see my favorite retinal specialist like now. But if you don't get new glasses, or you don't use your Bruder mask for your dry eye or your artificial tears, I've been doing this long enough. I mean, 28 years in, I don't take it personally anymore. But interestingly, they always come back and we revisit the same thing again. And people are like, yeah, I didn't really take your advice. And sooner or later, some people are just a little bit later to the party than others. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. I just keep on. I keep educating, and giving them the best that I can give them.
When you believe in what you're doing and you know you're doing the right thing, you're going to keep doing it regardless of who says yes and who says no.
Yeah. And I think it builds on itself too. My staff has gotten a lot more comfortable with it over the past, 6 months that we've been doing it. And I hear them talking to people and, and they're, repeating things that I say in the exam room, which is kind of cool.
So does your staff do the scan?
Yes. Yes. It's part of our pre-testing.
So I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, and then we're going to go through this workflow, and then we'll wrap up this call here. We really appreciate you. This is so great to hear from you, Heather, and kind of share your success, and you're really inspiring a lot of people here. How did you develop your belief, your passion, and your commitment for this? Why are you so passionate, and how did you develop that? Both in general, but also, you may have been really passionate about health, but then how do you build your belief system where promoting this in your practice was something that you felt was something that was the best for your patients?
Yeah. I've always been passionate about what can I do that's better and different than what everybody else is doing. I don't want to be lens crafters. I don't want to be Pearl Vision. I want to do it better. And I also want to take better care of patients. And I've always been more concerned about not just your eyes, but if your eyes are healthy, the rest of you is healthy, and vice versa. So that's always been a concern of mine. I have state of the art everything in my practice. I've reinvested all kinds of equipment, crazy stuff. And my friend Greg, Dr. Caldwell, introduced me to the whole scanning thing in Pharmanex. And, I kind of thought about it a little while when he actually brought it to me. I was actually going through breast cancer treatment and I was like, it's not the right time. If I'm going to do something, I need to be able to focus on it and, and be full force with it. And so once all that was over and, him and I, chatted about it, he gave me an idea of what was going on, sent me a bunch of articles to read. And I was like, you know what, this would be a great fit for what I do, and that's really how it started. Just, another practitioner kind of sharing their experience. And, that's what I'm trying to do with you guys tonight. And, if you do have any questions, certainly reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have about what I do. Not that I do everything perfect, certainly, but that's just what works for my practice. And like I said, I've always tried to take excellent care of people. And I think this is just another step in that, that path.
And Dr. Starling and her husband Troy I believe you're both in our Facebook group, MDS Team.
We are.
That's a great way to connect and share information on there as well. How long did it take you to make the decision to bring it into the practice from the time that you first got introduced? Because you just started in January, and Greg's using it for a couple of years now.
He was, like I said, I kind of put him off for a little bit just because of the whole, I was going through treatment and I was like, I'm just balancing all the balls right now. I cannot have one more ball in the air and have to learn something new and all of that. So I actually we were at a conference together, in October in Nashville, and I actually saw the scanner in person finally. And I was like, this is fantastic. So we got it going, and by January 1st, we were rolling.
Awesome. How long did it take for you to get up and running? Were you up and running within the first week or two, first month, or was there a ramp up period?
Days. Yeah, days. I received the scanner. I usually take the week off between Christmas and New Year's. I did my training. I want to say maybe the 28th or something. I went back to work January 2nd, and I did a training for my staff, and we hit the ground running January 3rd.
Awesome. How long have you been on the product, and what have you seen with your score and your health?
So I've been on the product since November of 2022. My initial score was 43,000, and I'm up to about 60,000 right now. And I take LifePak, I take Youth. And the reason I take the Youth is because I also take tamoxifen, for the breast cancer. And one of the side effects of that is joint pain. And the Youth has definitely helped with that. It allows me to get my workouts in, and I feel great.
Yeah, awesome. There's a couple other products to look into, or three other products would be the Reishi Max. I don't know if you know much about that product.
Yeah.
The T Green 97 and the Beauty Focus Plus Collagen, which we're hearing a lot.
I just started the collagen. Yep, I just started doing that. Yeah,
people are having great results with their joints as well. We've got a lot of athletes on that too. So,
yeah.
Have you been to Utah yet to our healthcare forum?
So, we just made our flight reservations. My husband and I are going in August.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we'll see you out there. And what do you like? What do you like best about the program so far?
I love that I'm adding a new dimension to my practice. I really feel that it makes me a better physician overall, because people are discussing things with me that they probably wouldn't have mentioned to their eye doctor, and there's a lot of things that we can help with that people aren't necessarily aware of. And that's been really, really rewarding.
Fantastic. So I'm going to share a screen here. We're gonna kind of pick apart your workflow. We'll maybe take another 5 minutes or so, maybe 10 if we need to. But hopefully you guys can see this screen. So these are the 6 steps of integration that we talked to. You may be merging some of those steps in there, being a solo provider. But walk us through these 6 steps. At some point, these are probably the 6 things you're going through. Maybe there's something you add, maybe there's something you don't, but maybe quick go through, how do your patients get introduced to the program?
So, like I said, we do it as part of the pre-testing. So we do your pressure, we do your visual acuity, we do your auto-refraction, we do a visual field, we do your scan. And my staff will say, Dr. Starling wants to check your carotenoid levels. And, they'll give them a little brief introduction about what the scan is. Some people ask more questions than others. Some people just put their hand on and, put their head down. That's it. And they always tell them, Dr. Starling will answer more questions, in the exam room, and give you an idea of what your score means. So that's where we start. And I do have posters and things in the office. I don't give them any more paperwork, up at the front, because that seems to be a problem for a lot of people. I don't know if any other practitioner has an issue with people complaining about paperwork, but that seems to be a common issue. So I didn't want to add another questionnaire for them. So we discuss it more than actually have them fill out another form when I get in the room. So they get scanned. Again, they come in the exam room. Everything's set up in there. When I come in, I start going through their history. As I mentioned, we do discuss their score, what that means, what I'm going to recommend for them. I typically do not, I'm not the salesperson. I recommend, I prescribe, I don't sell anything. I use the brochures, and on the brochures that you can get from Crisp Results. Is that what it is, Stephen? Yes, the website. I'm sure Stephen gave you the link for that. I write down my recommendations, their score, and where I want them to be as far as where I want their score to be. So when they go up to the front desk, when we finish their exam, my front desk people will say, okay, I see Dr. Starling recommended Life Pack and iFormula, or she recommended Marine Omega. Did you want to go ahead and get that set up today? We'll get that shipped directly to your house. And that's how it kind of goes. So my front desk will take care of the actual pricing, the actual setting up the account, and all of that. So they will enroll people. But typically what I do at the end of every exam before I leave the room is I recap everything. You know, I will say, so I'm writing you a prescription for whatever it is, glasses, contacts. I'm writing a prescription for an antibiotic, whatever the case may be. Also, they're going to give you information at the front about your about the Life Pack supplement that we talked about, and I just kind of wrap everything up. I'll see you back in a year. I'll see you in 6 months, etc. And so my staff will get everything enrolled at the front. And they'll also, at that point, depending on what product we're using, Life Pack, for example, is we recheck their scans in 60 days. iFormula, we recheck in 90 days. They'll actually schedule them. I have appointment slots in my schedule for where I can put rescans in. So I have time to go in and chat with them for a few minutes. And that's what we do.
So when you enroll the patients, are you using a paper order form, and then your staff the order, and your staff is putting in the order during some downtime or at the end of the day?
That's right. So we write everything on the paper order form at this point, and we give them a copy of it, so they have their username and password and all of the benefits for being a subscriber are actually listed on there. You know, it's a great form to actually give them, and then we keep a copy of it. And then when we have a chance at the end of the day or lunchtime or whatever the case may be, we go ahead and just put the order in for them.
Okay, awesome. So you went through those 6 steps really well. As far as the commitment, so you're more making the recommendation with passion, and I'm assuming some patients will ask some questions.
Yeah.
And then the staff is really just saying, hey, do you want to do this?
Exactly. You know, I don't think you sell in the exam room. You know, you present, you give them all the information, and then, you know, just like my staff does glasses and contacts out in the front, we do the same thing with the supplements. We've just sort of incorporated exactly the same way.
Great. Do we have any physicians that are on here that have any questions, or any providers that are using this scanner in a practice that has any other questions? If you do, come off mute or raise your hand. Okay, if not, does anybody else have any other questions for Heather? I think we answered all of them in the chat. All right, well, we'll conclude our call here tonight. Heather, you, Dr. Starling, you are fantastic. Thank you so much for jumping on here tonight and kind of sharing your insights here.
Has any questions, I'm happy to help. You know, just you know, message me through the MDS group, or you know, get in touch with me through Dr. Moore. I'll be happy to help you out.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll see you in a couple of months, Dr. Starling. And then just a reminder to everybody that next Wednesday, we will have a webinar, which will be week 2 of the month. It'll be next Wednesday at 8 p.m. on the same line. And that will be for people that are interested in growing the business with us. So that'll be next week. Then the 3rd Wednesday of the month, we'll have a call to introduce new physicians or other providers to the program. And then the 4th week of the month, we'll have another one to set up new distributor accounts. And then the 1st Wednesday of next month, we'll have another provider or 2 on here sharing best practices. So thanks everybody for being on this call tonight. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Good night.
Thank you, Heather. That was great.
Thank you. Good night.